Hello and welcome to episode number 18 of the Marriage Coach Podcast, where we are here to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving.
Today on the Marriage Coach Podcast, we're going to be discussing with Jamila S, Maxie, Holiday Blues.
Hello, Jamila. We are excited about doing another episode of Living Single with you. Holiday season coming up, we thought that we would discuss the holiday blues. We had a little conversation about this, and I thought it was very interesting. And I've actually had the conversation with a few other singles about, the feeling of the holidays and the different things, the different emotions and things that we feel throughout the holidays. So we want to chat about that tonight, about the holiday blues, and we want to be able to give the Marriage Coach Podcast single listeners some ideas. We want to give them some information. And we also want to help the married family members and friends understand how they can be a help and support to their single family members and friends during this season.
Yeah, it is such a real life topic that I don't think is addressed enough, but it does happen. And people may not want to talk about it, but I think it's healthy to talk about it. So I'm so excited that we're able to talk about this topic that do impact a lot of people and on a lot of different levels. So even myself, throughout the years, I've have experienced that. I think earlier, I really enjoyed the holidays. But then it got to a point, especially as I got older, I really began to dread the holidays. And I had to ask myself, why am I dreading the holidays? And for me, one of the realizations was that my immediate family is not, I'm their immediate family, but they were not my immediate family. And so I felt like it got to a point, and this was just internally what I felt, not that they necessarily made me feel like this, but I felt like almost a third wheel or an outsider, that I was subject to their family traditions. Like I was coming to be a part of their immediate family traditions. And so even though they were welcoming, it just made me feel, I don't really like using the word, but alone, in the sense that I didn't have my own family to make those traditions and celebrate with. And so that was a process of me having to, number one, acknowledge why I was feeling down during the holidays, and then really take some steps and some coping mechanisms and really reframe that. But it was a real life thing. And so I know that it was a few holidays, both Thanksgivings and Christmas, that I spent by myself. And I didn't have to, but I ended up spending by myself. So.
Right. And I think it's interesting because, I even heard about, as far as being single, where people feel uncomfortable in situations where, okay, they may be alone for the holidays, but then a family member inviting you over, and the person that's single, they look at it, or they feel in a sense like, you only invite me over because you're sympathizing for me, or you feel bad for me being single, so you invite me over. And the truth of the matter is, it may not even be the case, but as being a single individual, that's the way they receive it.
Yeah. And it can be challenging sometimes because, when you think about Christmas, if you're in that family setting, they might get you a gift, but here they are, you have the spouse getting each other a gift, and then you look like, I got some socks. Oh, okay. Not that I'm not great. I love socks. So not that I'm not grateful for the socks, but then you realize, is this a pity gift? Because you knew I was going to be here. So it's little things like that can really wreak havoc in your emotional and your mental well-being during the holidays. And it just, it's a lie of the enemy that comes and whisper, and he just takes advantage of it, that you're alone. And then if you really just stay in that place, you'll always be alone. You ain't got nobody. And so just start planting these seeds. And if you don't if you're not aware, you just let it go and go and go, and then the next thing you know, you're in a state of depression.
And the one thing that I found very interesting is looking at it from a married friend or a married family member's point of view when it's in regards to a single friend or a single family member, is to be mindful myself, be mindful of what
Yeah.
I say, and be mindful of the thing, because sometimes you can say things so frivolously, right? Like, oh, you're not doing anything, so come over here. And you didn't mean anything by that,
Wow.
but it's almost like, I really wasn't planning for you to come, but since you're not doing nothing, come, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not what you meant, but it was the way you said it. Instead of, hey, yeah, we're going to be together for Christmas, come on over. Or yeah, come on over for Thanksgiving. Stop at my house on one, make my house one of your stops or something like that. So the one thing that I was thinking about today, after we initially discussed the holiday blues, is thinking about for those that are coupled up, the married couple who now has another other people that are their immediate family, their spouse and their children, to be mindful, be mindful of the things that we say, be mindful of how we present invitations, be
Mm.
mindful of how we present whatever it is that we're doing, and to just think. And also, I also thought about it in discussing it with other singles. I thought about the fact that there are people that are married and still may be feeling holiday blues for some
Mm.
reason. For those people whose spouses may be away working, military people, or for people whose children are away from home for the first year or things like that. And so we're talking to the singles today, but I'm thinking about it in many ways. How can we be more mindful of what the holidays often do to people mentally, spiritually, and emotionally? Just like you said, once the thought is planted, because that's what the enemy does. He drops a little seed,
Mm.
and then that seed grows and festers, and before you know it, is they don't really want me over there. They just, they invited me because they feeling sorry for me, or
Right. Right.
they really don't want me over there, but they invited me because I asked, or whatever it is. And you, like you said, you're alone. You're always going to be alone. Nobody don't want you. All these other things, can come into play. And so I think it is very important. And I want us to discuss in depth what it actually does to people and how they feel about it. And then to go to what are some steps to help someone dealing with the holiday blues, and then what are some things that family members and friends can do to be a support.
Can we do this? So before we get into the how
Mhm.
to, maybe kind of discuss, different things of what to stay away from. A lot of times, people, if you're at home, you're on social media, and you're looking at everybody's highlights,
Yeah.
and that can be something that really enhance the way you feel. Or you can be okay, you're good being alone, you're spending time, you're having some me time, and then you get that first posting where you see your best friend or somebody from high school,
Mhm.
them with their family and the kids opening up gifts, and now here they are. That feeling begin to change, and you begin to have this feeling of loneliness
Mhm.
inside of you.
That's an excellent point, Cedric, that you have to be aware of what you put in before your eyes. At that
Mm.
time, maybe the holidays is not the best time to binge on Lifetime movies or Hallmark movies, to where, it's,
Yeah.
the romantic movies or the family and all this stuff, because then it starts to create, like you said, this image, and you're seeing these images are before you, and
Yeah.
then you your reality and say, well, that's not my reality. I want that to be my reality. So it's just like, maybe this is
Oh
not the best
man.
time to binge watch those type movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we notice, if we talking about movies, if we notice that all of the movies, Netflix is starting to put them out now, right?
Yeah.
And all of the movies, that's what it starts off. Somebody, oh, I hate the holidays or whatever, and then they meet this person and everything is perfect and everything is,
Yeah.
great, and everything is grand, and then all of a sudden it's some awesome ending to the story. And yes, that is the idea, but that's not how it always plays out for everyone. Because sometimes you experience that those seasons of maybe enduring the holidays multiple years by yourself before that happens. And sometimes, for some people, they're happy in their singleness, right? They're good, and they're good all year long until it comes to this. And what you guys have both just said is a eye opener. It's like sometimes is what you keep putting in front of your face,
Yes.
because
Yes.
what we're seeing on Netflix, that's scripted, is written out to go that way.
Yeah.
What you're seeing on Facebook, somebody orchestrated it to look that way, because I have
Some
not.
of it's scripted.
Exactly. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say it's scripted too, because how many times have you seen people? Don't post that one. Take another one. Take another one. Or the kids. The kids like, I don't want to take no picture. You better straighten your face up. You better, and you like, yeah. And that's not really what it is going on.
Right.
But you see that, and then again, Jamila, what you said, the trick of the enemy is to make. It's like that person's post will pop up as soon as you get on there.
Yeah.
You go on Netflix and you finna watch Grey's Anatomy, but all of a sudden Christmas in Love then popped up. And now you're like, oh, this look interesting. And there you go. Whatever it is. So I think it's important that there are some things that we should stay away from. Being careful of the things that you allow to be in front of your face, to get into your eyes, to in your ears. We love all those Christmas songs, and some of them are about love, and then you got the other ones. What do the lonely do? No, stay away from that. Stay away from those. Stay away from the things that's gonna make you dread the holidays even the more.
You know what's so interesting about that? When have you ever seen, like, for example, a holiday movie are really embracing singleness?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen one yet. If it's out there, somebody leaving in the comments, help us out, and we refer, people to it. But it's always about family. It's always about love. It's always about
falling in love.
yeah.
Meeting
It's
Mr.
never
Right.
about single and staying. Or matter of fact, if the woman stays single, somewhere in the movie, it's like she's bad being single. Single is bad. Single is bad. You need to find somebody. So she's single. She find a man. They hook up.
Now life is great.
Yeah, now life is great. They live happily ever after. So I mean, these are the things that I believe are some of the things behind many that gives the holiday blues.
It's really important too that in the movie, when the person is single, single is bad, what you see is that she's badgered, or he is badgered about when you're gonna get married, why you still alone, or I have somebody I want to hook you up with.
Yeah. We watched one recently called Holiday. And that's how this one started out. It was a girl, and she
on Netflix.
She broke up with a boyfriend or whatever, and she was like, I'm single. I'm just enjoying being single. But then it showed her, she said that, but then it showed her from to me, this showed the character from a depressed state. Because it's like, oh Lord, because then the brother got engaged, and she's like, am I the only one not married? That's where it went to. And then she bumped into the guy, and it was the same thing. He had a date that went horrible, and he was like, oh, why you got to do all this and all that? And just thinking about every movie we've watched, anything about Christmas, we've watched probably a few with the kids over the weekends, and everyone has had it started off with this, I'm all by myself. And then all of a sudden there's this love story. And even if it takes time to get there, they get to the happily ever after. And of course, there's nothing wrong with the happily ever after. We know, for those of us that are married, we know that that's a continual work in progress, right? You're always working to keep going forward with your marriage and being a successful, healthy relationship instead of the happy ever after. But it's a mindset. It's a mindset. So we definitely have to be careful about what we're letting in our space that will feed this spirit of loneliness, this spirit of depression, this spirit of I'm missing something, this spirit of I'm
Yeah.
not good. And there's nothing wrong with someone desiring to be married, but just to piggyback on what we've said on many podcasts before, to embrace and to bloom where you are until that time comes, or to just, keep being you, the best you that you can be, and enjoy everything in your life until that time comes.
And it's really so eye opening.
Yeah, it
I mean, it's so
is.
eye opening to me because even us sitting, we sit at home and we watch these movies and never thought about what it is doing for a person that's
For
single
somebody that's some
or
people.
somebody that's in a bad relationship.
Right. And even so, single goes beyond that. I think about what I thought about was the person that may have lost their spouse this year
Hmm.
or last year.
Yeah,
That
is
holiday blues is a whole nother thing for
true.
someone, for someone who got divorced last year or someone who
Yeah,
got divorced earlier this year. Some people, some people are single by choice, like this is what I'm doing until I do this or until I do that, or some people just like, no, I'm not meeting the right person or whatever. But for the person, and also for the person
wow.
who's like, I didn't choose this, maybe my spouse decided they didn't want to be married anymore, or maybe it was just too toxic and it had to end, or maybe my spouse is no longer here on the earth. And so not even thinking, and I was saying that when I was talking to someone about us doing the podcast on the holiday blues, I would have never even thought about what the holidays could mean to someone else, because many of us think, oh, the holidays are coming. I'm excited. It's the season
That's
of
how everybody's starting.
lights and
Yeah.
turkey and ham and trees and poinsettias. And it's the season of joy. It's the season of happiness. It's the season of togetherness. But for someone else, that season brings on sadness. For someone else, that season could bring on memories, or not necessarily good memories, or it could be good memories, bad memories. It could bring on a feeling of depression or a feeling of loneliness. It could bring on a lot of things that I haven't even fathomed because I'm so caught up. And that's what I thought about as far as the married family member or the married friend, to be conscious and cognizant of what I say, what I do, how I move about,
Yeah.
because not that I'm responsible for my friends and family, but responsible to them, and wanting to be a part of the joy in their life.
And I think this is such a powerful podcast because I think that there may be a lot of families out there who would be shocked that their family member even felt like this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, especially when everybody else around you is joyous, you don't want to come in being Debbie Downer. So you put on this basically a mask and you're trying to enjoy yourself, but inside you may feel this lonely feeling, or
Yeah.
you may feel a certain type of way, but because you don't express it and you're just going about the motions, they might not ever know. So I think maybe this will
Wow.
prompt conversations around
Yeah,
this, that to say, how are you truly, all the holidays, do you struggle with the holidays? And I'll create safe spaces to where we can have these conversations to really, open up about what is it that you feel during the holidays,
yeah.
and how can I help you make the holidays not so detrimental or disdainful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for this is it's already good to me, y'all. And
Man, this is good.
this
Yeah.
just conversating with singles and what we're talking about now is helping me
Yeah.
to be mindful as a human being, to be
Absolutely.
mindful and think about, what can I do? What part can I play? And then what you just said about the safe space. We want to, in all of our relationships, we want those that we love to feel safe and not feel like, oh, I'm ruining your holiday if I tell you I'm feeling like this. No, this is how you feel. And I want to know so that I can do whatever I can do, even if it's just be there, even if it's just listen to you, even if it's just acknowledge that you feel this way,
Yeah.
even whatever it is. It's important for us as people to create this safe space that you're talking about, Jamila, so that everyone that is feeling this way during the holidays are free to share that with those that they love. and we want to be a help and a blessing to anyone feeling or experiencing holiday blues. So a question I want to ask you, Jamila, is maybe based on your experience, what are some things that a person can do to help cope with that and to be able to navigate through that?
And that's a really good question. I think I go back to what I said originally. You have to acknowledge that you're feeling not like this. Like, you can't, one of the things I used to do years and years ago was I would stuff my feelings and it would come out in different things like overeating, something else, but it's acknowledging. So you acknowledge the feeling, that I am feeling like this. I am a little bit down during the holidays. But then the most important question is why?
Mhm.
Why am I down? Then you can say, oh, okay, because this is the time of year that I'm reminded that I don't have my own family, my own immediate family. Or this time to where I really, would like, I envision at this point in my life that I would have my family and I want to create traditions with my family and XYZ or whatever the case may be. So I think, I say it's horrible to lie to other people. It's even worse to lie to yourself. It's having that, really being honest with yourself and really like digging deep on the foundation of what you're feeling and what's behind those feelings, what's motivating those feelings. And
Right.
then, like we talked about earlier, is knowing your triggers. And one of the most powerful things is reframing. So, and that's how I got to actually start enjoying the holidays again. I had to reframe that narrative so that when I did get an invitation, even if it may have came sideways or and this is important, if I interpreted that it became, my perspective was that,
Yeah.
okay, the pity invitation is reframing that this is somebody who loves me and they want me to be a part of this holiday memory. So let me go be a part, let me enjoy the people around me that I can, because it goes back to I'm loved. I'm loved by XYZ, and that's why they invited me. So it's in, it's challenging. One of the things they use in counseling is challenging that irrational belief. So it may be an irrational belief that, oh, they don't want me there, blah blah blah. Well, if if you really feel like they don't want you there, address it head on. Ask them, questions. Don't just supply yourself with that narrative. Have a conversation about that, because if it's really a pity invitation, okay, well, you got to the bottom, but maybe it's just your perception of that. So it's really having that internal conversation with yourself first, and to really understand that better, and then you can move outward.
Wow. And you said something, and that's really good. So basically, um, you as an individual control the narrative.
Mhm.
You control the narrative of what you're gonna let float in your mind of what's really going on. So you control the narrative. And I like the way you said that, even even talking about it. And I just recommend, for anyone, whether you direct or indirect, if you feel that maybe someone is doing it and you feel some kind of way because you feel it's because of pity, when you approach the conversation, don't attack the individual and say you did this. Start off with I. I
Feel.
feel. I
Mhm.
feel. I feel. Remember these two words. I feel that you, and then take the conversation however you feel. Go in that type of way, and it'll keep the individual from feeling like they're being attacked, by you. So just remember, I feel. I feel.
Mhm.
And
Ab-
that's so powerful. And the other part of that is, number one, allow the person to express the I feel statements. And
Yes.
that's something I learned some years ago. And it's so powerful because one of the things I tell people is that you cannot invalidate my feelings, whether you feel like they're right or wrong.
Right.
That's my experience of you. I love Fix My Life. She's like, baby, that's your experience of, XYZ. Whether my experience is actually akin to the truth or not, that's still my experience.
Yeah.
So that's
Very
something
true.
I say as a receiver of listening to that, is don't be so quick to be dismissive of that person's feelings, because they actually may feel that. So let them get that out, and then you can talk to it. So maybe that can change in the future.
And you help them create the right story.
That's right.
And then I think that, when we're talking about things that a person can do to when they find themselves dealing with the holiday blues. And you talked about the internal part. So you're talking about doing the work within before you attempt to do the work without, knowing the root of why you feel this way, why this onset
Yeah.
comes every Thanksgiving or every Christmas or whenever it comes for you, knowing the root of where it comes from. Because I believe that truly after that, then you can address it and you know how to deal with it, and then you can move on to the next thing, which will be doing something outwardly. And those would be things like doing something that you love to do. You
Mm.
know, even as a single person, I have coworkers, friends, church members, they're
Yeah.
single, they have their own traditions. They're not, some of them are not sitting around waiting for someone to invite them for Christmas Day on. Baby, they're going on a trip for Christmas. They're not
He
even gonna
going to
be here.
Hawaii.
They going to, they're going on whatever they're going, and they're traveling, or they're like, I'm going to a movie and I got these plans. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna stop there. They have their plans. There is not a waiting for someone to invite them or waiting for someone to include them. They have their own things, and they may stop by and chill out with you for a little bit, but they going on doing their own thing. So once you do the internal work, then you can have some external things you do, like create your own traditions. Even as a single, do some things that make you happy.
Yeah.
Do things that bring joy to your heart. Do things outwardly that, instead of watching, everybody fall in love on Netflix,
Yeah.
just go out and enjoy yourself. Love on yourself,
Yeah.
and do things that bring light to you. So those are some outward things that you can do after, and we want to be clear about that after, because if you don't do the internal work, the after work is really like putting a band-aid on it. If you just say, I'm not doing the internal work to find out why I feel this way, it would be with
Mm.
anything else. If we just did stuff on the outside to take the feeling away, that's just putting a band-aid on it.
Yeah.
So what we want to do here at the Marriage Coach Podcast, we want to help you do surgery on it and fix that thing so that you'll know. And when it starts to rise up, then you want to have the proper medication to treat it,
Right. Yeah, and that's interesting because I mean, even now you really think about that. At the time of the recording, I mean, this is 2020, and you have pandemic going on. So we actually, I mean, we're in
Mhm.
a different season,
For everybody.
for everyone. So I think a year like this year, 2020, is a year where if someone was even like you mentioned about finding things to do, I mean, right now the movies is not a safe place to go. Right now, I said
Yep.
Hawaii. Hawaii is not a safe place. It's not. A lot of
A lot of
places.
traveling.
So I mean, we want to keep that in mind too. That even individuals, period, whether you're single, whether you're divorced, whether you're a widow, whether you married with a family. I mean, this holiday
It's
season
gonna
is
be
going to be
different.
different. It's going to be different from everyone. I mean, we were just talking even about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, we used to, doing the family thing, but now, the COVID-19, the numbers have went up right for the holidays, and all the high officials they recommending that we stay home and stay put, and in order doing that, I mean, most of us going to be
It's gonna be a
experiencing
tough year.
Thanksgiving, Christmas like we never experienced in our life. So I mean, we have to keep that in mind as well, and make sure we don't go to these coping mechanisms and these triggers. For example, you mentioned eating. Another one is alcohol and drugs and partying and going back to an unhealthy relationship. I mean, you
Mm.
have some people will run back to an unhealthy relationship because you know what? I have this feeling of being alone. I'd rather be with somebody I don't like
Wow.
just so I won't be alone. And now you're stuck. And you know what? What happens? I mean, pregnancy can happen. I mean, certain things can happen. Now you're stuck in something that you was trying to do temporary to fix a problem. So we have to be very, very careful, of what we do this holiday season.
And that was powerful that you brought that out, because they don't call this season cuffing season for no reason.
Hmm.
Mm.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that is, you have to be aware of that. Why am I running back to this person?
Uh,
I heard something today that said he's an ex for a reason,
Oh, Jesus.
exited that relationship, let that stay. So I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. So, it didn't work out for a reason. Now, if that person's changed, yeah, so be it. But why are you running back to this unhealthy situation? That's really powerful to really have that conversation of why am I going back? And it could be that I'm just trying to mask this feeling that I'm experiencing.
Right.
And so the thing that I've started to do is own my life, own this process, own, my life.
Right.
Like one year I had surgery during the holidays. So I was locked in a room, which was not fun.
Mhm.
So I was like, next holiday, I'm gonna do something fun. It's like you said, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I did. I'm like, I'm traveling. That was before the world shut down. I was like, I don't even want to be in the country when 2020 rolls in. So I planned this trip, had an amazing time, and I love that. And if the world wasn't shut down, that would be my new tradition, is to go somewhere and bring in the new year outside of the country. It was so beautiful, and it's like all those feelings that I had felt in the past. I didn't feel lonely. I felt fulfilled. I was happy. I was enjoyed. And it was a win-win, because it's like, this is something that I enjoy doing. This is something that I wanted to do. And it was relaxing from the hectic pace of my life. So there were several different levels of needs that were met by that. So, and it may not be traveling, but whatever it is, own that process. Know that you're not a prisoner in your own life.
Right. So as we continue to talk, one other question, and this is for people like me. What can married and friends, what are some things that we can do to be a support? Cuff in there some things that we should not do or not say. When if we have a family member or a friend or whatever who's experiencing the holiday blues, what are some things that we could do to be supportive? What are some things that people that have a significant other can do or say to be supportive, and what are some things that we should not do and not say?
One of the things I would say is, don't force anyone to come over. If somebody is really, really struggling, and they don't, you invite them and they're just like, okay, don't force them to come over. Because I was talking to my hairstylist earlier in the week, and she said she had never thought about that she may invite somebody over and who's single, and they may not want to be around other people at that time because they may be in a certain space. And she's like, I never thought about, because I was explaining, I guess we talk about the podcast all week before
Yeah.
we do it. And so I was explaining about the podcast. And so I think awareness this is just one of the steps, is being aware. So it's like, come on, girl, come on over here. But then actually stop and say, is there a reason why you don't want to come over? Like, it goes back to creating that safe space, asking the right questions. It could be they just tired and they just want to take the day of rest. Or it could be that they're in an emotional differently place, and going around family that's not their family, they may feel like an outsider. The other thing is, if you're able to, and include them in the planning process, that makes a difference. My
Wow,
oldest,
that's good.
we talk about the menu, and my mom does it too. We talk about the menu, and so I feel like I'm contributing, and so that makes me feel more of a part than,
Good.
oh, you by yourself, what you bringing? It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it,
good.
it changes a little bit, because then you feel included. And that's something that's encoded in our human DNA, is that we do want to belong. And
Yeah,
so it creates this sense of belonging,
yeah,
that you're included in the process, and you're not an afterthought. Like, they didn't come up with everything and then say, oh yeah, by the way, are you coming? And then
mm,
it's like, no, consider, well, I don't eat seafood, so I don't want seafood gumbo. But if you
Right.
included me in the process, we
yeah,
could have, fleshed it out. Well, okay, let's have seafood gumbo, and let's do, something else on the side that I can enjoy. Or
right,
my favorite dessert is this. Can we have this as dessert in
yeah,
addition to XYZ?
that's
So,
awesome.
and that makes people feel a part,
Yeah,
and not like an afterthought or a third wheel, or however many wheels, an outsider, basically.
right,
So those are some things. And just like you said, being mindful of your language. you have to know the person that you're talking to. Some people are more verbal than others. Some people are more are shyer, and so they may not express exactly what they feel. But being sensitive, and that takes a little bit more time and it takes a little bit more intentionality.
Right.
But if you can help create a different narrative for that person, that's powerful. So just basic, simple things. One of the things that I say is that I will never treat other single people the way sometimes I have been treated as a single person. So it goes back to the golden rule. You treat others how you would want to be treated. If you're married and you find yourself single for whatever reason, how would you want someone to treat you?
Yeah.
And how would you want someone to talk to you? And then you approach it from there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
Awesome. Wow, that's awesome.
We have had a great conversation
Yes, this
about the
was awesome.
holiday blues, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for this discussion because, like I said, the fact that we were going to talk about it on the podcast and discussing it with friends and other people that are close to me, and
Yeah.
discussing it with you and us talking about it even more now, it makes me definitely
Man,
mindful.
this is good.
And we just encourage, whether you're single or you're married and you've experienced, the holiday blues, or the holidays trigger something and this wave of sadness come over you, be encouraged. One of the things, you're not alone. No matter what the enemy tells you, you are not alone, and that you are loved. Somebody on this earth loves you.
Yeah.
And before all of that, Jesus loves you. So,
Yes.
a lot of times, speaking to the singles, we have to make sure we can open up our heart to receive that love. So, like I said, we have work to do in ourselves, because we do is like, sometimes when you open your eyes, you can see those around you who really genuinely care for you and that you're loved. So now you have an information to challenge those irrational beliefs that I'm not loved. So know that you are loved, and really embrace that the best way that you can. A lot of times we just sit in it. Don't sit in it. Actually be active and say, I don't want to feel like this anymore. What can I do not to have another holiday season like this? And then, just know, it goes back to know that you are loved by somebody on this earth, and that if they're expressing that love, embrace it. But like I said, if you don't want to go, don't go. But if you genuinely have a desire to go. You might find that you're going to have an excellent time. You might really enjoy yourself, and it may be one of the best Christmas ever. But, I'll share this, but because of the pandemic, it is so nice to be in a healthy space, because this Thanksgiving, I actually have to spend it alone, because my sister is a nurse, and she takes care of COVID and non-COVID patients. So I had to make a decision, and I, leaning more on the side of, okay, I'm going to use wisdom. So I may not come for Thanksgiving. So I actually have to spend Thanksgiving by myself, as a lot of people will this holiday season. But it's not a place of depression. It's not a sad place, because number one, I had an open invitation. I know that I'm loved. I just can't be there with you physically, but that doesn't change the love that I have for you, or the love that you have for me. And I'm so grateful, because who knew this pandemic was going to come? And, I'm basically, the best choice is to spend the holiday by myself, but I don't feel like, oh, woe is me, I'm alone. What am I going to do? Like, I went into plan, like, I'm not going to cook a turkey. Okay, we're going to see what restaurant I can do a curbside pickup for on Thanksgiving. Like, I went into planning mode and say, how do I want my Thanksgiving to look? Not like, oh, woe is me, I'm going to be alone. So
we want to thank you for joining us on the Marriage Coach Podcast. Wherever you are listening or watching, we would like to encourage you to subscribe and click the notification button so that you will be notified when we upload a video every week. And we're also asking that if you're watching on YouTube, that you will give us a big thumbs up and let us know that you enjoyed the information that you received on today. If you're listening on iTunes, we want to invite you to rate the podcast. That helps us get the word out. Please head on over to our leadership podcast, Lead to Greatness, on iTunes and YouTube, and check us out.
Thank you for joining us today. Looking forward to hanging out with you again on next week as we continue to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving. Bye. See you next week.